your video will be in priority for everyone. Yes, and I wanted to ask you what the plans do you have in Climate Action Network, and did you decide to change it somehow because of crisis? And also maybe some participants can be involved also into your activities. So you have 7 minutes for your presentation, for your input.
Thank you. And I haven't prepared a presentation. I've sent a few ideas to Olha, and she has created a joint slide for us. So some of the events I will be mentioning are on that slide. But maybe to first take a step back, as you know, the international process and the international conferences that are normally held in climate, all of them have been cancelled or postponed. The regional climate weeks that we had been looking forward to have been cancelled. The SB session is postponed to October. COP26 is pushed to next year. And if you don't have this piece of information, the UNFCCC Bureau is meeting early next week on the 1st of June, and they will make a decision on the final timing for COP26. And that will, of course, be important as for us to plan what next year will actually look like. So, but in the meantime, and due to the many discussions on the economic recovery packages and how they link to climate action, there's actually a fora that we hadn't had much expectations for this year, which has picked up in importance, and that is the G20. And the G20, there are a range of meetings and discussions that will be held online, and there are a range of important decisions that will be made, and that I think will be an expression of the global solidarity between countries to ensure that the recovery on a global level is sustainable in its widest sense, but also is supportive of climate action and climate ambition. So there is a whole G20 calendar because there are many meetings of the G20. There's an important finance ministers meeting in July, and then the final summit will be in November. Likewise, we've also heard that the G7 summit will apparently go ahead, and it's hosted by the US, and they're currently looking at actually holding it as a physical meeting rather than an online meeting. We don't know, of course, whether that will actually be possible. It was scheduled to be held in the beginning of June, but is now pushed to the end of June. So that's for the international meetings outside of the UNFCCC, and within the UNFCCC, so the climate convention process, we as CAN have discussed quite a lot also with the other constituencies how we can move and push climate ambition and action this year, even without the climate convention meetings. So, and we're currently looking at two bigger events. One of them is most likely to be held in July as a cross-constituency range of workshops that will happen throughout the week. And the constituencies we're working with are gender, trade, unions, the justice campaigns, and the indigenous peoples. And we're looking at holding, each of these constituencies will be holding a range of workshops showcasing the work they are doing or focusing on, and driving that discussion around what their perspective is on climate action, climate ambition, and of course putting it in the context of the COVID crisis and the economic recovery packages. So there's this July moment that hopefully we will be able to share much more about, and that might be interesting for some of you to engage in if you see an opportunity to maybe showcase some of the work you have been doing. Then a similar event, but slightly different, has been proposed by the Alliance of Small Island States, who are very often referred to as climate champions, because they are the ones that really push climate ambition on the global level in the negotiations. And they have called for an accountability moment at the end of this year, meaning they would like to see a global event where countries take stock of how far they have gotten in terms of increasing climate ambition this year, in both with regards to mitigation, adaptation, and also finance and support. And as CAN, we're currently discussing how we can support that accountability moment, and potentially also organize a similar or parallel meeting of civil society in support of such an accountability moment, to take stock of how far have we gotten. So that is something we're discussing with other groups as well, and in particular also with the UK groups. And we hope that that this will be taken up, because we think it's important to keep up the momentum this year, and to continue pushing for climate ambition on the global level as well. So that are the main events that I wanted to share here, which are happening on the international or global level.
Great, and I also want to ask Olha Boiko, also from Climate Action Network. She's a coordinator for Eastern Europe, Caucasus, and Central Asia, to say a few words. What would be at the regional level, and maybe if someone from us can also be invited into these events or processes. Olga, we can't hear you. Maybe
Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry, I can't switch on my video right now. There's poor connectivity at the moment. That's why I decided to switch my video off. You know that Climate Action Network is an extensive network, and there are regional branches such as ours. We also hold our own events and plan them, whilst we obviously participate in global events. Generally speaking, and I'll be brief, we want to revise and build a strategy for our region. Given the situation we find ourselves in, all those above mentioned crises and their impact on our region, we will do it together with our members, even though we're far apart and unfortunately we can't meet yet. Chances are we will meet at the end of the year to attend a small session. All members will be informed of that later. But our General Assembly, the big event, was postponed. It will happen next year in Kyrgyzstan, the city of Bishkek, in next April or early May. That is, April or May 2021. Central Asia is an interesting and important region. That's why we try to hold our meetings at a variety of locations so that all members can get there. This will be a more open event where we are happy to invite the attendees of these conferences to strengthen our partnership. Events are likely to open up in autumn. There will be more opportunities to participate. There will be a BON SB session, so something that's happening between the conferences, as mentioned by Marianne. We keep track of what's happening there. And usually these conferences are attended by our members, and so do we, and so do our international partners. So stay tuned, and I hope that we I'll do utmost given the circumstances. Next slide. I indicated a number of items, but maybe you're interested only in some of the events. Maybe you planned to attend them. Maybe you only found out about certain events today. Maybe you want more information about some of the events. In the meantime, please, maybe Lena can explain the procedure.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So we want to know how you feel about those events. Do you want to become a part of them?
Great. You can read all these events, maybe that you want to be involved in, and you can go to the top of your screen, see the menu of demonstration menu, like screen menu, and found commenting, annotating in English, and it will be another somehow another in Russian, annotated in English, or annotate. And please use stamp menu and use any stamp that you want. Heart, star, yes. Had at least 30 participants today, so I will wait for 20 marks and stamps. Good. His pass will support April's meeting. It's so great. We will have an opportunity to meet one more time together. Great, thank you. I think Olga will provide all information further in the mails, so you can be still informed on that and about how you can participate. Thank you. So thank you one more time, Marianne and Olga. If you will have any questions for them, for Marianne and Olga, please try to please use the chat for the questions. And Amalia, you need to go to the top of the screen. Use 3 dots. Found 3 dots like settings or something like that. In Russian, it would be настройки просмотра. And find commenting, annotate, комментирование, комментировать. And after that, you can use a stamp. Thank you. And Marianne said that she will forward all international events also to Olga, so we can put them also into the following up mail. Thank you for that. Okay, I will have to stop commenting now. And we'll do some else. Okay. Thank you for that. And I want to ask Siobhan to also switch on your video and audio. And also ask, what are you planning to go ahead to keep your ambitions high? And your speech will be about what UK is pushing for. So the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much for inviting me to speak on the panel today. So my name's Siobhan Wright and I work in the political team at the British Embassy in Kiev, and I focus on climate change. So as I'm sure you've spoken about quite a lot throughout the this online conference, we're obviously in the midst of a massive global crisis, with COVID-19 being the most urgent threat that faces humanity today. But what we can't forget and what we can't allow others to forget is that climate change is the biggest threat facing humanity in the long term. So as you're likely aware, the UK, in partnership with Italy, was due to host the COP26 United Nations Climate Change Conference in November this year. Unfortunately, the effects of the crisis have meant that holding this ambitious and inclusive conference with an intended 30,000 participants isn't going to be possible in November. So as Marianne said, it's been postponed until next year, and the discussions about the new dates are ongoing and they'll be announced once it's agreed. But we really hope that rescheduling the conference will ensure that all parties have the right amount of time to focus on the issues that need to be discussed at the conference, and it will allow more time for the preparations to take place so that we can ensure that the conference is as successful as possible. But despite the COVID crisis and that we've had to postpone COP26, the UK government is really clear that climate action is an absolute priority. And the UK is going to continue working tirelessly with global partners to keep up the momentum on climate action and to increase and deliver the ambition that's needed to tackle the climate crisis. So this means more ambition to reduce emissions, more ambition to build resilience, and more ambition to cooperate with each other to tackle the shared threat of climate change. And so to do that, we're going to continue with our preparations for COP26, and we're going to continue to be a global leader on climate change. And the main way in which we're going to do this is to support and encourage nations across the globe to uphold and significantly boost climate ambition in line with the Paris agreements. So to make sure that we can meet the Paris agreements, it's crucial that every country comes forward with its own new ambitious climate commitments this year. Nationally determined contributions are at the heart of the Paris Agreement, and they're vital to achieving the long-term goal of limiting global warming. So the UK is working to encourage all countries to increase their ambition of their nationally determined contributions, and as far as possible, we're looking for nations to come forward as early as possible this year with these ambitious nationally determined contributions, so that nations across the globe can demonstrate their commitment towards meeting the Paris agreements and tackling climate change. Our plan for COP26 is to focus on 4 different themes and to encourage action in relevant countries in these areas. So the first theme is adaptation and resilience. This is all about helping communities to prepare for unavoidable climate impacts. And we want to work with other countries and financial institutions and civil society to drive increased preparedness to the physical, economic and financial impacts of climate change. So this includes encouraging a step change in adaptation and resilience investment, insurance and expertise. The second theme is nature-based solutions. So the UK wants to use COP26 to put the spotlight on nature-based solutions to climate change. So this is all about finding innovative ways to protect and restore natural habitats and ecosystems and shake up our economic model so that it doesn't pay to destroy the environment. The third theme is clean growth. So we want to bring governments, business and civil society together to speed up the transition to clean growth in 3 particular sectors. The first sector is the power sector, and there we want to expand the Powering Past Coal Alliance so that more countries and investors commit to phasing out unabated coal power and international coal finance. We're going to campaign to make coal history, and we want to work with other countries and development banks to support developing countries in choosing clean power over new coal, and to support emerging economies in making just transition to clean power. The second sector is transport, and here we want to bring countries together to double the pace of global transition to zero emission vehicles, and we want to phase out internal combustion engine vehicles by 2040 or earlier if possible. And in industry and building sector, we want to tackle emissions from high energy consuming products by working with other countries to set minimum energy performance standards on products like lighting, industrial motors and air conditioners. The fourth theme that we are focusing on in preparation for COP26 is green finance. So to make sure that all countries can access the investment they need to be able to fund projects to boost their resilience and power their shift to clean growth, we need to see a transformation of the financial system. The scale of infrastructure investment that's needed to meet the Paris Agreement is between $4 and $6 trillion a year. The current investment rate runs at less than $1 trillion. So we need to scale up the support to developing countries and accelerate the transformation of the global finance system. So they're the 4 themes that we're focusing on: adaptation and resilience, nature-based solutions, clean growth, and green finance. But as I know you've been discussing throughout this conference as well, obviously COVID-19 has led to the unprecedented shutdown of large parts of the global economy, and this has been a big challenge for everybody. But as the efforts to rebuild the global economy begin, there's a real chance for nations to recover better and to shape the economy in ways that are clean, green, safe, and more resilient. So I think as countries start to rebuild their economies, they need to continue to embrace opportunities offered by technology and renewable energy resources. And also, as part of the green recovery, we need to make sure that the transition is fair and inclusive and leaves no one behind. So finally, just to say, I think that civil society play a really important role in the preparations for COP26 and in the sort of the move towards a green recovery. So I would really encourage civil society representatives to ensure that you continue to keep speaking and trying to influence your governments to be ambitious on climate change. So encouraging them to be as ambitious as possible in their nationally determined contributions, influencing them to consider the areas they need to tackle domestically to ensure that they can meet the Paris agreements and move towards net zero emissions, and to encourage them to ensure that their recovery from the COVID crisis is green, sustainable, and inclusive. I think I'll stop there, but if there's any questions, I'm happy to take them.
Okay, thank you. If you have any questions for Siobhan, please put it in the chat. Yes, or put it in chat that you want to ask by voice. Thank you for that. Thank you for your input, Siobhan. And I also want to, before the Q&A session, give the word to Philipp Behrens. And I want to ask you about what's next for the you consider crucial for the next maybe 6-12 months in terms of green recovery and the climate ambitions, and keeping the climate ambitions in your countries high. So if you can turn on your video and audio, because I can't see you. Or maybe.
Oh.
Okay. Oh yes, great, we can see you.
Can you see me and hear me?
Yes, thank you for that. You have 7 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much, Helen. And first of all, thanks a lot for having me and organizing this important event. For me, it's very impressive to learn about the great impact of civil society, and also to hear what's going on in the region in these challenging times. I think we all know that the year 2020 is crucial for the implementation of the Paris Agreement. This was true 3 months ago, and we kept saying that this year it is all about ambition raising. But I think it is still true after the world was hit by a deadly virus and ended up in a deep social and economic crisis. The development of this year, the year 2020, and the economic decisions that are to be taken now in this year will have a major impact on the development of climate change in the future. And I think the economic stimulus package in response to Corona crisis needs to set the course towards modern and sustainable economies, and must not fall back to the instruments of the past. Every country is now having the same discussion. That goes as well for Germany and the EU. By the beginning of the year, I think we were very well on track with our climate policy. In 2019, in Germany, we had set up a so-called so-called climate cabinet, and we had agreed on phasing out coal and adopted a climate package for the year 2030 with strict and I think very effective monitoring instruments in place for all relevant sectors. Meanwhile, on the EU level, the European Commission adopted the EU Green Deal with some very important core elements, such as the declaration of carbon neutrality until 2050, the enhanced NDC target, as well as a just transition fund for particularly affected regions. But now, in the middle of the corona crisis, we need to redefine these priorities again for the economic stimulus, and we need to remain committed towards higher ambition. And I'm very much convinced that the civil society can and should play a crucial role in this discussion. Investments that are made now need to pave the way towards climate neutral and resilient economies, and at the same time address the social dimension by promoting quality green jobs. Currently, the EU is working on enhancing its NDC from a 40% to a 55% emission reduction target until 2030. This is a goal that especially civil society actors have been calling for. And at the Petersburg Climate Dialogue in Berlin, our Chancellor Angela Merkel made a very clear statement and declared her support for the 55% emission reduction goal. Additionally, several European ministers for environment called for the Green Deal representing the central instrument to push for a green recovery. In the current crisis, we need this green growth strategy more than ever. We can now show that a carbon neutral economy will be a major advantage in the international competition rather than a disadvantage. And if we can now show that raising ambition is a crucial element of our economic strategy in times of corona, the EU can serve as a role model for many other countries. And I'm convinced that many companies already share this view we're having. In Germany, more than 100 German enterprises, including high-emitting steel giants like ThyssenKrupp and Salzgitter, have urged to prioritize climate change activities in upcoming economic stimulus packages. But also, it is obvious that the recovery needs to happen worldwide. Therefore, international cooperation and support for developing countries that will disproportionately suffer from the crisis is needed more than ever. I am working for the German Ministry of Environment and heading a division that is coordinating the International Climate Initiative, the EECCA. The EECCA is our main funding instrument in the German Ministry of Environment, and we support developing countries in implementing their commitments under the UNFCCC and the CBD. We also directly support climate-related activities of civil society organizations in partner countries. The EECCA supports bilateral, regional, and global projects that, since the adoption of the Paris Agreement, increasingly focus on supporting NDC implementations. And that is why we also collaborate closely with the NDC Partnership, a very successful and effective network to implement and enhance NDCs. For example, the NDCP set up a short-term support instrument for the updating process of NDCs, the so-called Climate Action Enhancement Package. And with the EECCA, Germany was able to directly support the NDC enhancement in 15 countries. With regards to the corona crisis, we are also planning to provide additional financing for the NDC partnership to employ economic embedded advisors in ministries of finance and planning. And those advisors would support our partner governments on the topic of green recovery. This request for support was directly stated by NDCP member countries. The NECP is also planning for a high-level forum in this summer where all members, countries and institutions can reconfirm their commitment in raising ambitions. With over 350 currently running projects all over the world, the EECCA can be used as a mechanism for a quick response and to reinforce the climate community and civil society in its partner countries. Here, our diverse portfolio is a real asset. And we are currently evaluating how our ongoing EECCA projects can provide additional support to partner countries in aligning climate action with health, economic and social priorities, focusing on green recovery. And I think in the medium run, these response measures will also have an impact on our EECCA project programming. For instance, setting a stronger focus on green jobs. Of course, the bottom-up support provided through civil society organizations will continue to be one of our main priorities. I think while many things are currently unclear, one thing is sure. Most of the solutions we need are already out there, but they need to be identified, they need to be shared, and we need funding for that. And with that, I would like to end, and I'm very keen to our further discussions, how to tackle those important challenges. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Philipp, for your input. Yes, and we have a few questions from now. I think one for Philipp. It's not, it's addressed to you, but it's not about the topic maybe of our conference, but I will read it still. It's about nuclear safety and what to do with sending of German nuclear waste to Russia, how much Germany can regulate this process, and also is ministry responsible for nuclear safety, and yeah, do you use this nuclear energy still in Germany? You have we know that it's an issue for Russia now. Maybe if you can comment it shortly, if you can do that, it would be good.
Sorry, I'm not sure whether I got the question. It's about whether we are exporting our nuclear waste to Russia?
Yes, yes, and can you regulate this? Because as far as I understood, we have a problem in Russia now, and maybe Natalia will, from Russia, it's a question from Natalia Paramonova from Russia. She can comment it, but I don't know, don't want to go so deep now. We have
don't worry. I can. I mean, of course, I'm not an expert in nuclear energy and nuclear energy waste, but I know that our main principle, trying to find the final solution for our waste, is that we are looking within our country, and all the political parties are in agreement that we are not exporting our waste for the future. So that's for sure. But as I said, I'm not an expert in this.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you for your comment. Tell if you want to ask some more, just maybe write also into the chat. Also, we have a question, I think, for Siobhan. Thank you, Philipp, for your answer. Is there any process, from Olga, is there any process organized by the British government that would lead the COP in the next years, that the civil society can participate? Especially maybe our region can participate. If not, we would love to hear about when it's ready. And also we had input to Olga's question from Tatiana, how UK will make sure that the most amount of CSOs will participate. What would be the quote for CSOs participants? What you will want to message them?
Thank you very much for the questions. So currently, I think the British government is working through, well, as I've mentioned before, the date for the COP26, but linked to that, the different events and milestones that will happen in advance of that. So I don't have any details at the moment on specific events that civil society can take part in, but when I hear more from London, I'll be sure to share that with Olga so that she can let all the civil society organisations know. On the question about making sure the most amount of civil society organisations will participate and the quota, I'm afraid I don't know the specific answer to that either, but I can try and find out and feed that back. But I think just to say that, you know, one of the reasons that this was postponed is that we wanted to invite, 30,000 participants to make sure that the COP26 was, a great event where as many people could come together as possible to talk about climate challenges. So the reason it's been postponed is so that as many people can take part in person. So yeah, I'll try and find out what the quotas are and how many people will be able to participate. But yes, one of the reasons is so that as many people can participate as possible.
Thank you. Thank you, Siobhan. And also we have one comment from Sonia that Philipp can also maybe react somehow, that she disagree with only one point. German was not so on track. Not only CSOs criticize the German climate policy package, but also important climate experts, youth movement, and so on, and even parts of the trade unions and company representatives. If you want to say.
Yes,
sure. Yes, please.
Thank you very much. That's a very fair and understandable statement. It's probably a question of perspective, and I was considering where we were coming from, and I was very closely following the policy the years before that, and I think the fact that we installed a climate cabinet and made the decisions on the highest level of our government is a very important one. And the instruments we installed together with this climate change package for the year 2030 is also very effective, I would say, because we have a clear pathway for all our sectors and we have a monitoring in place, which is happening each year. And I would say having this clear and effective instrument is a very important first step to follow through our commitments on the international level. But of course, I understand this comment.
Yeah, okay, thank you for answer. And I think we don't have any questions, but maybe I will ask three of speakers now a common question about, maybe you can, what's one piece of practical advice now for CSOs from Eastern Europe, Central Asia, and Caucasus countries? How do they still can participate international protests and keep ambitions high and pushing this ambition high, because it's so hard in this pandemic situation to keep being involved. Maybe one practice advice from you, or from your perspective, it would be good. If someone wants to start.
Maybe I can start if just don't want to. Well, I think we're not in the position to give out advices to other countries because, as I mentioned, we are in the situation of having a sincere discussion in Germany at this moment. But I would say if you need an orientation, the European Green Deal is a very important instrument, and I think it is the right way to follow through. And as I also mentioned in my presentation, the cooperation with the NDC partnership can be very fruitful. So those would be my comments on that.
Thank you. Marianne or Siobhan, do you want to add?
I can say, yes. So I think that a really good way to engage governments on the importance of the climate change issue is to demonstrate to them how climate change is important to other issues that are of importance to that government. So demonstrating how, for example, climate change links into security, if security is a big issue for your host country, demonstrating to them how climate change can affect security and how if you work on climate change to improve the situation, it will also improve their priority of, for example, security as well.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, I was thinking, I mean, I think the presentation Naomi did earlier today, where they had taken an economic recovery package and set it up, comparing it to the NDC and how the various policy instruments could be reflected in an NDC, and sharing that with your government. I think that would also be a very helpful way forward, because you would sort of actually support the thinking around how can we combine climate action with a just and green economic recovery. So I thought that was actually quite a helpful tool that if I was working on a national level, I think I would try and do that for my own country and see how do these things actually compare, and how can I share good ideas with the government. And then I'd like to agree also that the NDC partnership is a very useful organization or focal point for organizing dialogues with government around NDCs and climate ambition.
Thank you so much for your inputs and answers. And we run out of time, and so I want to thank for your participation and also for your contribution to climate policy on a daily level. Thank you, and we will keep going and keep on our partnership so far. And I will stop my demonstration now. And if you will, I hope you will have all this information from Marianne and other speakers more detailed. Also, we will try to put it into documentation somehow. And if you have some notes or slides or links to events, Sonia, Siobhan, Philipp, and Marianne, also you can send it to us today or yesterday, so we can put it all this information into the documentation for the participants. And I want to switch to Russian because we will go more to the focus of our countries finally. Thank you for that.
So I will share my screen once again. Give me a moment, please. I would like to thank everyone for their participation. And I want to discuss more about what is happening in your country. So now we're going to have country working groups. Of course, the question is, what's next? What can we do together? And you can discuss what Mariana, Philipp, and Siobhan were telling us about. You can also use all of the information that was shared with you in the course of a 2-day conference. And of course, people working in your countries are the best experts who know the most about your country. So it is important for us to learn more about your country. Here is the list of work groups. They may change. And how are we going to work now? One moment. I do not see the chat box. Siobhan says, thank you. Okay, we have 20 minutes left. And it will be the most important part of the day when we will agree upon what we're going to do next. So please do not leave us yet. Bear with us a little bit. Now we're going to send you to different work groups. Country work groups. Even if there are 2 persons, we don't want to mix you up with a different country so that you get mixed answers. No, for us it is important that you focus on your country. There will be hosts, people from our team who will be helping you, who will be moderating your discussion. And each of you will have a slide like this. I'm gonna share it with you in the chat box. And you will be able to work with it. You can fill it in. The question is, after everything that you've learned, and what can you do next? given this year? What events, both offline and online, can be conducted? What climate policy processes will be happening? So now you're going to have about 15 minutes, probably slightly less than that, to work in a group. Please discuss in your country group. What will you be doing? And if you want to invite people from the region to these events, then please also write it down on these sticky notes. These will be slides 33 to 39, and you can find your country. We are going to have moderators who will help you organize your discussion, but you will have to fill in the slides. You can speak any language that you feel comfortable in. You can even speak your mother tongue. Well, of course, it would be better if you speak Russian or English, but you can speak any language now because we're doing the country group work. But please write information on the slides either in Russian or English. And then probably you will have to say a couple of words about what is written on your slide. So if we're ready, then I understand that we've been sitting now for 30 minutes listening to presentations, so you can stretch a little bit and then join one of the groups and discuss what is happening in your country.